We do have a great sponsor. It is Home Title Lock. My friends, go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use promo code TIM. That's HomeTitleLock.com. Promo code. You want to pull that up, Serge? And let's get it. If you're a homeowner, you got to hear this. Today's AI and cyber world, we're just talking about that. Scammers are stealing home titles, and your equity is the target. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee with your county, and just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. Then they take out loans against loans using your equity or even sell your property, and you won't even know it happened until you get a collection or foreclosure notice. So when's the last time you guys checked your home title? If your answer is never, then maybe you should consider looking into that. This is why we're working with Home Title Lock. We're proud to have them sponsor the show. So you can find out today if you're already a victim. Use promo code TIM at HomeTitleLock.com, and you'll get a free title history report and a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud does happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. Once again, it's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code TIM. The craziest thing is, I was looking into this because I was like, wow, that's like kind of freaky. It has been skyrocketing. This is like one of the go-to frauds been happening for in the past several years. So thank you, Home Title Lock. Shout out. From the Washington Post. Pentagon plan would create military reaction force for civil unrest. Documents reviewed by the Post detail a prospective National Guard mission that, if adopted, would require hundreds of troops to be ready around the clock. I am so happy to hear this. Because what did we all complain about in 2020? Trump wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
The riots were rampaging across the country, and Donald Trump was like, no, we're going to let the states handle it. And that proved to not work. They say the Trump admin is evaluating plans to establish a domestic civil disturbance quick reaction force composed of hundreds of National Guard troops tasked with rapidly deploying into American cities facing protests or other unrest, according to internal Pentagon documents reviewed by the Post. The plan calls for 600 troops to be on standby at all times, so they can deploy in as little as 1 hour. They would be split into two groups of 300 and stationed at military bases in Alabama and Arizona, with purview of regions east and west of the Mississippi River, respectively. Cost projections outlined in the documents indicate that such a mission, if the proposal is adopted, could stretch into the hundreds of millions of dollars should military aircraft and aircrews also be required to be ready around the clock. The proposal, which has not been previously reported, represents another potential expansion of President Donald Trump's willingness to employ the armed forces on American soil. Spare me, dude. They become apoplectic. Barack Obama, during the Trayvon Martin BLM riots, during the Michael Brown riots, we had the National Guard deployed. They didn't bat an eye. They said, oh, yeah, well, I guess they're deploying the National Guard. Nobody cried about this. I was on the streets in Ferguson talking to National Guardsmen as they were deployed to deal with the unrest. Why now are they pretending like they're so outraged?
Well, it reminds me of when all of a sudden SEAL Team 6 was Dick Cheney's personal assassination squad. Then all of a sudden when SEAL Team 6 goes in and takes out Osama bin Laden because Barack Obama's president, they're the best thing since sliced bread. And, of course, we saw all the movies that are made. It's always the rules for thee, but not for me. And so what is the purpose of the National Guard? That's the purpose of what the National Guard is supposed to do. And anytime you're going to deploy, and anytime you have flashpoints, anytime you have criminal illegal immigrants, anytime you have a Trinidad or some of these other terrorist organizations operating within the country, there's nothing wrong with having a quick reaction force. Being a commander in Iraq, if we put people out on a mission, on a patrol, whatever, guess what we had? A quick reaction force in case they got into any type of troubling situation. They could pick up and call, and you could push those resources down there. Wouldn't it have been great to have a quick reaction force out in Portland when they were, shooting at the cops out there, when they were setting firebombing federal buildings and things of this nature? So the left, once again, this is the Marxist mindset, is that we want the ability to go out and create fear, intimidation, coercion, and conduct and enact violence, and we don't want to be challenged.
Yeah, I mean, look, the left has made it pretty clear in the past decade that it's not what the policy is, it's who's instituting the policy. So if it's Barack Obama or Joe Biden doing something, whatever the policy may be, the left will be for it. If it's Donald Trump, the left will be against it. And I assume that after Donald Trump, if there's a Republican president, it'll be the same thing. The Republicans decide they want to do something, the left is all against it. If it's a Democrat that wants to do something, left is all for it.
I think this is a smart idea because To be frank, most police departments around the country are underfunded and underprepared for riot-type situations. Most of these police departments aren't set up in a way where they are prepared to address, hundreds of people who are protesting and rioting and also dealing with the crime that's there, say for maybe the NYP and LAPD. In New York City, they have a specific department called the SRG. It's the Strategic Response Group that are especially there, and they are on call to be able to react within an hour to any riot-type situation in the city. That happens relatively often, and they're very effective at doing that, but that's because the NYPD has the funding to do that. It's night and day seeing these riots happen in New York City versus out of New York City and out of LA. I think this could prevent a lot of violence and damage happening around here, but it's something we need to consider because I think a lot of police departments haven't really been up to full strength ever since the defund the police movement.
No, absolutely. And we see that down in Dallas where I am. And you look at the crime, how it's spiked in the capital of Texas, in Austin. So, yes, there's nothing wrong with having this flex force. But isn't it interesting that the guy running to be the next mayor of New York City has said he wants to get rid of that SRG? He didn't bump his gums too much after they just had that shooting up there.
Well, I mean, he also says he wants to tax white people, and he also says that he's going to defy federal authority and the will of the American voter by protecting non-citizens in his jurisdiction. So, at this point, we were briefly talking about this as we're getting ready for the show, doing pre-production and stuff. Democrats are not going to stop.
No.
They're screaming the end is nigh. They're screaming Trump is fascist, and literally no matter what he does, he's Hitler. I'm at the point where I just don't care anymore, right? They in 2020, we had the worst riots in 50 years, billions of dollars in damages, and they said, who cares? Insurance will pay for it, which is not true.
No.
And, I see a funny post where it was actually really funny. A friend of mine posted this. A liberal was saying, I don't want to give SNAP benefits to people who are going to buy sugary drinks and soda. And the liberals are arguing that we should give poor people sugary drinks and soda now. I'm like, it's bizarro world. There's clearly no logic behind any of their activism. You want poor people to be sickly and malnourished? Let's give them protein bars, not soda.
Well, and that comes back to think about how COVID was racist because for whatever reason, more black people were dying. Well, if you have certain comorbidities, such as the high blood pressure, the heart disease, the diabetes, all of these things that, oh, by the way, when you're not, drinking all these sugary drinks and all these bad foods that they have flooded into the communities, and now you can use the EBT card, it's not even called food stamp anymore, to get this, they really don't care. But they are very good at going out and, as we talked about, projecting who they are on someone else. I don't call them Democrats anymore. They're Marxists, they're leftists, and what they want to do is create the chaos and confusion. They support lawlessness, and when you stand up against them when it comes to lawlessness, and coming back to what you're saying, any time that you do something that opposes them, you're a threat to democracy.
Do you guys know what prion disease is?
Prion's disease? I've heard
prion
of it.
disease.
I'm not sure what it is.
So there's various kinds of diseases. Deer, for instance, if they eat like the rotted remains of other deer or something like that. It's the brain. It causes prions, which are malformed proteins, to enter the body, which results in other proteins that the new proteins that are being formed in the body to be malformed. And if they're not formed properly, they can't integrate properly, and you start dying. Isn't mad cow disease? Is that what you said? Yeah, mad cow disease. I kind of feel like that's what we're seeing largely with leftists. It's a malformed civic ideology behind them. It doesn't integrate with anything. It makes literally no sense. And there's no point in arguing with it. It doesn't function. Mm-hmm. And so when we say things like riots are bad and destroy people's lives and they defend the riots, something is wrong. When we say we want to help poor people, we do. We want to lift people from poverty, so they should stop having sugary drinks. And they go, no, we want them to have sugary drinks. I'm like, but that's making them sick. It's increasing all of these comorbidities and obesity and diabetes, and they just want the opposite of what makes sense. What Trump is doing with a reaction force, it's only a couple hundred guys.
Yes.
And they're screaming the apocalypse. I just say, stop caring. Just stop caring. Trump, do what must be done to make the system work. Those that know and care and are paying attention are behind you. And we'll fix and clean up these streets. Look, 27 murders per 100,000 in D.C., putting it in the top 10, number 8. Some argue a little bit higher, of the worst homicide rates in the country, and it's our nation's capital.
And in the world.
And in the world. And there was a story I just heard, I think it was Seb Gorka told me this, an armed FBI agent was carjacked. What? Yeah. Our law enforcement is getting robbed by people. Come on, we got to stop it.
Well, like I said, it was just, 2-3 weeks ago, you had an off-duty ICE officer that was shot in the face by 2 criminal illegal immigrants. So, I mean, how can someone say, I want to be the mayor of a city where I don't want ICE officers to come and remove these type of people off the streets? How can anyone sit and support folks to say, America is not a sovereign nation. We don't have borders to protect or defend. We're just going to allow any and everybody to come in here. How can anyone I remember that line when Martha Raddatz said to J.D. Vance during an interview, what are you making a big deal about? It's just a couple of apartment buildings. That's how they rationalize, and that's how they normalize everything. We should be incensed that you have illegal immigrants, members of a gang unit, in this country with weapons and going through an apartment building. But these are the exact same people, Tim and guys, that will say, we don't want you guys, the legal law-abiding citizens, to have weapons. We don't want the police out on the streets, but we don't have any problem with criminal legal immigrants running around this country with weapons.
Yeah. We're in a weird time in this country where crime is bad. And the argument is, in some ways, it was worse before, so it's okay that it's happening now. And I don't know why we tolerate that degree of crime. And people are acting like Donald Trump federalizing the police in D.C. is martial law or fascist takeover. It's not. It's a federal district.
Yes.
And Trump has the authority to do so under the Home Rule Act, and he's commanding a police department that already exists. Deploying the National Guard to deal with rampant unrest is constitutional and and codified. This is not even the Insurrection Act. Trump has the authority to deploy the National Guard in times of unrest. And if the laws are not being enforced against, he can actually invoke the Insurrection Act and send in the troops. Is the argument that we should allow crime, murder, rape, et cetera, in our country because we're scared of policing?
Well, I mean, I don't think that's the argument the left's making. I think that the argument that the left is making is just, counter Donald Trump. They don't make any actual policy arguments. They just say, oh, well, whatever Trump says is either not happening or it's good that it's happening. I mean, we've been down the list of the it's not happening. It's good that it's happening. That's standard from the left. So it's just counter whatever the conservatives or Donald Trump is saying. And it's been that way for a decade now.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.